Welcome back once again, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of SALT, sharing and learning together. Just a quick note before we begin. This project is carried out by the students of Oriental Theological Seminary, in particular the Master of Divinity 2 students and Master of Arts in Clinical Counseling 1 students. We want you to know that this activity is part of our current course requirement, and therefore this video is strictly for educational and awareness purposes. My name is Nandilo Semi. I will be your host for this session, and we also have three very bright minds, scholars in our midst today who will be joining us for this conversation. First of all, we have Pastor Gyamar Sikap. He is currently here pursuing his Master of Divinity. He is in his second year. Secondly, we have Ms. Tsayanla Akam. She is also pursuing her Master of Divinity in the second year. And finally, we have Ms. Dessa Saya. She is currently pursuing her Master of Arts in Clinical Counseling, and she is in her first year. Thank you to all three of you for joining us. I know that the three of you have been doing a lot of study on the subject matter for this evening's discussion, and with the insight and the knowledge that you will be bringing in, I believe that this conversation will be a very interesting and a meaningful one. I think I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but this episode of SALT, our conversation will be centered on the topic of singleness or being single. Now, when we talk about singleness, I think this is one of those issues on which people have different views and opinions. For some, they may see this as a problem that needs to be solved. Very few they see this as a blessing. And then there are those people, especially in our context, they may see and treat people who are single as something like a taboo. I'm sorry I'm generalizing here, but I hope you get the point. Sadly, I think it's also one of those issues that we tend to sweep under the rug and we do not talk about much, which is why I think that it's important that we start having discussions, conversations on this topic. So just to start us off, can any one of you, tell us why it is very important that we have a balanced understanding, maybe a very thoughtful and a sensitive one at that, in regard to singleness?
Thank you. While talking about singleness is a very important and very pertinent in this present context. Many of the people, they misunderstood the very idea. They think they are single, they are lonely and incomplete life. But in this open conversation, I think we can convey the people that the singleness is not a bad thing. It is a privilege and a freedom for an individual to discover his hidden talent, to do some good things for the community and for himself, and he can have a freedom to decide his thought without disturbing others and his partner. So while we talk about the singleness, then if we understand the real meaning of the singleness, then people of the community, they will come forward. They will encourage and support them, so that the person who remains single and want to do something for the community, they will get confidence, emotional and mentally. They will be encouraged to do more in future.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. There is a lot of stereotypes and stigmas and misunderstanding surrounding singleness, and I think it's important that we, start breaking down those stereotypes and stigmas. And like you mentioned, of course, singleness does not necessarily have to be a bad thing. Sometimes it can also be a good thing. You mentioned something about that in passing, and we want to explore that a little bit more. And so, could you tell us, some of the blessings and the opportunities that comes with being single? I mean, any one of you may choose to answer.
Yes, what you have said about singleness is true. And a single person, like you have said, may have greater advantage or greater opportunities to grow and greater freedom than compared to married people. And by this, when I say this, I don't mean that every one of us must choose to be single, but there are some advantages that I would like to point out. The first one being able to give undivided attention to God and His calling in our lives. Married persons' priorities maybe their spouse or their children, but for a single person, they don't have to divide their attention between God or their family. And Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians also describes singleness as a gift, just as how marriage is considered a gift. So singleness can provide more freedom when it comes to giving undivided attention towards Christ. And also as believers who are bound to face persecution, singleness can spare an additional burden that comes with family responsibilities. And so, in other words, it's just that single people have less obligations attached compared to married people. And single people also have less obligations when it comes to traveling or relocating or settling in places for their ministries. A married person may have lots of requirements to meet when they are planning to settle in a place for their ministry, for their not just for himself or herself, but also for their spouse or for their children. He or she has to consider the needs of all his family. But for a single person, he or she only has to focus on his own personal needs. And so, also when it comes to using of resources, a single person may have more resources than married people to invest in their ministries. So, singleness is not that bad after all.
Well, I think that's a very encouraging perspective. Like you have implied, being single does not necessarily mean that one is at a disadvantage. There could be so many opportunities and also, blessings that comes with being single, and especially when it comes to, giving our time and service to God. Now, bringing the discussion closer to home, it has been observed that in recent years there has been a rise in the number of single people. And in fact, one of you mentioned in your paper that the median age of young people getting married, at least the first marriage, it has risen significantly in a very short period of time. And I'm just interested, why is this the case? What could be some of the factors that could be leading to that?
So, in recent years, the rise of singleness has become a notable social trend. So, against this backdrop, I would like to bring in our context, which is Nagaland. So, to look into it, I'll first give a brief traditional context of it. So, traditionally, Nagaland has been built around clan-based and village-centric system. Traditionally, Naga society has been organized around clan-based and village-centric system, where marriage is not only a personal milestone but also a social institution that ensures the continuity of lineage, clan alliances, and community cohesion. However, singleness has been on the rise among our Naga society as well, due to the rises of demographic changes and social and cultural changes. So demographically, according to the Census of India, Nagaland data 2011, it states that Nagaland has a predominantly young population, but the rise of First marriage is increasing. Long Kumar are in his article Urban Youth and Changing Marriage Patterns in Nagaland addresses that many young people are prioritizing education and career development, especially as more individuals move to urban areas, leading to delayed marriages. And now when we look into socio-economically, the high cost of traditional marriage ceremonies discourages early marriages, causing some to wait longer or remain single. And additionally, evolving social values and greater acceptance of diverse life choices have reduced the societal pressure to marrying early. These factors together, demographic shifts, economic consideration, and changing cultural attitudes contribute to the rising trends of singleness among the Nagas.
Thank you, best sir, for sharing those thoughts with us. I think what you have said, really helps us to see what is happening in our society. The bigger picture, especially in regard to singleness. Now, coming to the next question, that ours is a very close-knit community. In a context such as ours, marriage is something that is seen not just as a personal choice, but it is also a duty that need to fulfill for our family and also the community, which is why being single in our context, whether that may be by choice or involuntarily, it may not always be perceived positively. And so can any one of you share some of the struggles that single people go through in a context like ours, and also maybe some of the possible negative effects due to that?
Our community is such that it affects our entire life decision making, and also in regard to marriage is seen as a communal obligation, and like you said, it's more than just a personal choice to get married. So singles, they get stigmatized for not wanting to get married or for not being able to get married, and also they have this pressure always from the society that they are living in. So for example, in the context of a man who is single, he might be ridiculed, or he may be joked by the society as being gay, or his sexuality may be questioned or joked about. For women, it could be getting labeled as the leftovers, or phrases like they have crossed 12 o'clock, referring to their biological clock. And so there is a lot of stigma and pressure that is associated with being single in our community. And also when it comes to people who are divorced, the pressure is real for them. And I am 100% sure that they get to hear the question, when are you getting married, more often than we think they do. And there is also pressure for widows or widowers, and also people who have divorced their partners. They are also prone to the societal pressure into remarrying for the sake of companionship, for social acceptance, or for economic reasons. And in the case of a woman, it could be to have a male figure in the household for security.
I will now be talking about the aftermath effect psychologically. So psychologically, belongingness and love are basic human needs. So if a person feels isolated because they are single, it affects their emotional well-being, and also social pressure can cause stress and anxiety, which can impact the mental health as well. So being single can also lead them to feeling of isolation or stressed or sadness. If the person feels that they are different from others in their community, being single is okay. It can sometimes lead them to feeling isolated or stressed, both socially and psychologically in our community.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are very real struggles and challenges that every single person go through. And what the two of you have shared has also, in a way, helped us to see the weight that many single person carry. But I think we should not stop there. Yes, we need to sympathize and empathize with them, but I think how we respond, that's what's more important. And so, what should we do from here? You know, can you tell us some things that we can do to encourage and support people who find themselves in that kind of situation, whether it is by choice or otherwise?
Thank you. Yes, some of the people, they decided themselves to remain single because of different situations in a family and community they faced. So, in such situation, it feels that so community people, they usually discourage them, rather encouraging, the place of encouraging, they discourage them, and they are not getting enough opportunity to identify their identities in Christ, emphasizing on the value of singleness. So, in such situation, what I feel is that community people and family, the relatives, they must come forward to help such person and genuinely welcoming them and make a space in the community to serve and to explore their problems, rather discouraging them, and they must welcome them and give them opportunity to serve in the society and then make use of their gift and talent for various purposes, maybe religious, social, especially they must be engaged in church support, church-based support ministry, so that they should not feel isolated, and so they should not feel dejected. So give them the chance to serve the society rather than discouraging them, what I feel.
Thank you, Pastor Gyamar. What you have said, I think that was very insightful and also practical, and I hope that the things that you have shared, they have given all of us something to think about. Maybe just one last question. For some, singleness can also mean a transitional period before marriage. Now, when this transitional period it drags on, discouragement may eventually settle in. So, what advice or encouragement would you like to give to young people going through this waiting session? If one or two of you can share something on that.
This waiting period or this transitional period can be especially hard for people who are stigmatized or pressured into marriage. However, I believe that we should not take this waiting period as unproductive years or something that as if our years are being wasted. But instead, we should view it as the period where we are discovering about ourselves, the self-realization or self-discovery, and a period where we learn about our goals, our choices, and build our career or know about our emotional well-being as well. So my advice to the young people who are in this phase, in this waiting phase, would be to be patient, to be more patient and compassionate to themselves, and not to compare themselves with their peers. Of course, it will be hard for them because when they see their friends getting married, and when they are also stigmatized and pressured at the same time in the community that they live in, it will be hard for them. But they can be more compassionate towards themselves by not comparing their lives with their friends or with other people. And everyone's life choices are different, and they should not use other people's life decision as a yardstick to measure their own happiness or their own success in life. So instead of looking at this transitional period as wasted, they should look at it as preparing themselves for a more fruitful and fulfilling and successful future.
In today's culture, young people rush into relationships or marriages without truly knowing themselves or what they want, often leading to heartbreaks. So singleness can be a blessing in disguise. It gives you the time and space to discover who you are and what you truly want in a partner. Embrace singleness as a valuable period of growth and self-discovery, a meaningful delay that prepares you for a greater, more fulfilling future.
Thank you for sharing those final words of encouragement. I think that was such a beautiful way to end this session. Over the course of this conversation, we have seen that singleness can be a blessing, but we have also seen that it can bring different kinds of challenges. And I think as the church, it is our calling and it is also our responsibility to work with those people, supporting them and constantly reminding them that they are deeply valued in God's family. To our panelists, thank you once again, for coming and for sharing your insights with us. And to all of those who are watching, thank you for joining us and, just being a part of this conversation. We will wrap things up from here. Until next time, take care and God bless you all.